Hey there, MRA, my Real Africanist. This is your girl, Maria Jouf, the Real Africanist, and welcome to my channel. If you have been here before, I thank you for coming back. And if this is your first time here, I appreciate you watching. On this channel, I talk about African history, the field of African studies, and current African affairs, right? So, the last video I put up about Egypt, whoa, right? I really got a lot of interesting feedback on that video. Some of the feedback was very uh, positive and engaging, and some of it was, you know, arguably disagreeable, right? So basically, one of the um, comments that I got on that previous video was this whole accusation that, I am pushing racism, and again, that I am living in the past, right? And why don't I just move on? Um, and that's what this video is about, right? I just want to encourage those who are out here working to change the African narrative, those scholars who are involved in African history and the study of African affairs, right? I want to encourage you not to allow this accusation of racism and also the accusation of living in the past to prevent you from doing the work that needs to be done, right? And that is rediscovering, uncovering, and telling the African story from an African perspective, right? My thing is, when it comes to that, those who say that and those who use that as a way of pushing back against the African narrative, I feel like, they have some nerves, right? Some nerves. Just blatantly hypocrites, right? Hypocritical. I mean, for centuries, right? For eons, people have been telling our stories, right? From European perspectives, from Arab perspectives, right? They have been distorting our story. They have been telling our story from a subjective perspective. They have, like I say, distorted it, fabricated it, just basically outright lied about it, right? And if they weren't doing that, then they were suppressing the story, right? I mean, our story has been hidden from us for, like I say, centuries, right? Centuries on top of centuries. And now, when we as a people have decided to take the reins and start to tell our own story, now they want us to stop talking about it, right? To stop pushing racism, right? They want to accuse us of being or pushing reverse racism or pushing Afrocentrism, right? And again, I don't have to, if you have watched the channel before, I don't have to explain to you what that means, right? I have told my audience before that when people outside of the African race use the term Afrocentrism, they are using it to devalue African scholarship that is done by people of African descent, right? They are using to invalidate it, to somehow say that it is not worthy of consideration, right? So that is what that is one of the tactics that is used, right, to prevent us from telling our stories and to push back against us telling our stories, right? But that's not going to work. That is just not going to work. Like I say, after centuries of being subjugated, oppressed, enslaved, colonized, exploited, and every other degrading thing that you can think of, then you have the audacity and the nerves to accuse us of pushing racism, right? I had one comment to say, why don't you just stop it? Because we are sick and tired of racism, right? Well, if you are sick and tired of racism, then why don't you speak out about the racism that is leveled towards people of African descent in all of these North African countries, right? And also in Egypt, speaking of racism, the racism that the Nubian people face in Egypt themselves, right? Why don't we ever hear you speak out about that when these North African leaders use all of this racist language towards African people, right? When they are treated as second-class citizens. Why don't we ever hear you speak out about that, about the racism that African people of African descent are faced with all over the face of all over the world, right? Why don't we ever hear about that? Why is it that we only hear about racism when we are being accused of being racist just because now we want to fight back, right? And we want to tell our story again from our perspective. And it's not just now, right? Our scholars have been working extremely hard and have put in a lot of work to tell our stories. I mean, we have a lot of excellent scholars like Leo Hansberry, who has done extraordinary work on Ethiopia, and again, Dr. Benjakanen. We talk about Ivan Van Sertima. I mean, George G.M. James with Stolen Legacy, John Jackson, I think the Introduction to Civilization, of course, Sheikh Anta Job, Dr. Asa Hilliard, Leonard Jeffries, I mean, Rosalind Jeffries, I mean, the list goes on and on and on, right? These scholars have put in a tremendous amount of time and amount of work to create scholarship for us as African people to recover our stories, right? And we will not, well, I know I will not, right, let them down, and I will not let their work be in vain, right? I will not stop telling the story just because some people are uncomfortable with me doing so, right? I mean, all over the world, even in America, they are trying to ban our story, right? They are banning books written about Black history, and even those that are written by Europeans about European history, because of the horrendous nature of this history, about the ruthless and cruel things that were done to people of African descent, right? They are trying to ban the teaching of critical race theory of the book 1619, which talks about the date that is given as the date that first African people came to Americas as enslaved people, right? So they are trying to ban all of that type of material, right? But you can't ban the truth. I don't care how many books that you ban, you can't stop this avalanche of information that is available to us now, right? It's all over. It's all over the internet. And matter of fact, it's in the Library of Congress. I mean, it's in libraries all over the world. And like I say, one of the reasons why this governor here in the United States, down in Florida, says that he is banning some of the works about African history, about Black history, is because he does not want it to make other white people in this country feel bad, or don't want the children to feel responsible for what was done, back in the day. But it was okay for little black girls and little black boys to feel bad about who they were for centuries and for decades, for them to always teach that, you know, we were just these illiterate, ignorant, downtrodden folks that didn't know anything, that should be thankful that Europeans came over to Africa and saved us and civilized us and brought us over here to the new world to build this country for absolutely nothing, right? So it's okay for us to feel bad about ourselves, but when the truth comes out, now it's not okay that your descendants feel bad about what their ancestors did, right? They try to blame slavery on black people and claim that we sold our own people into slavery, right? And they do not have an abundance of proof of that yet, right? But it's okay for us to think that we are responsible for that horrendous trade when we know that they are 98% responsible for the trade, right? That they were the majority of people that were involved in it. And when I say they, I mean European as well as Arab people, because we don't talk enough about the Islamic slave trade, the East African slave trade, the Sahara slave trade. You know, we don't talk about that, but it existed as well. So how is it okay, like I say, for us to feel bad about ourselves, but it's okay for you to continue to push these racist narratives that make us look like savages? So, you know, if you can't take it, then don't dish it out. Because the golden rule is treat others like you want to be treated. And so you can't treat us like crap over and over again and expect that your day will not come. Right? So I am on here just to encourage those who are involved in teaching African history and African studies, who are involved in the research and who are involved in telling the story, do not stop telling the story, and do not stop presenting the truths as you know that they exist, right? Don't get discouraged, because sometimes it can be discouraging because we don't have, like you say, the big machine behind us. We don't have the money. You know, we don't have these big networks. We don't have printing presses, right? We don't have global distribution. We don't have, these huge Ivy League institutions standing behind us. But we do have the truth. And I do believe when it's all said and done, that the truth will prevail, right? And again, one more thing I would like to say on those accusations that, African American people or African people, period, are living in the past, that we need to get over it. Slavery was a long time ago. Colonization is over with. We need to get over it. But when have, like I say, they gotten over it? No, we don't need to get over it. No, we don't need to forget it, because we don't need for it to be repeated again. And how are we going to forget those things when people are still, like I said, treated like crap and treated with prejudice and discrimination all over the face of the earth, right? And no, again, we should not forget the legacy of our ancestors. We should not forget what happened to our ancestors, right? We should not forget the pain, the suffering, and the torture that they endured for us to be here now doing what we are able to do, right? They fought for our freedom. They fought, they bled, and died for us to be free, and we are free to tell our own stories, right? And we are not living in the past. That's obvious, right? When African Americans were free, they set about building new towns for themselves, institutions, right, to educate themselves, houses of worship, and like I said, we built our own economies, and then people came along and destroyed them because of jealousy, because of envy, because they thought, I guess, that we were just going to be downtrodden, sitting around, not doing anything. But we are resilient people, and we must continue to push forward. And again, it's not about living in the past. I am a student of history. I am a student of African history, a student of world history. So I study the past, right? There's a major difference. I study the past so that I can understand what happened then, so I can understand what happened now, what is happening now, and I can convey that message to the world and to those that are interested in that. So it's not about living in the past. It's about studying the past. And like I say, it's a genre. It's a field of study. And again, only would they accuse of black people of living in the past now that we want to study our own history, but they can write books and books and books and libraries about their history and about their past, and nobody says that they are living in the past, right? So again, just keep on trucking, baby, and keep moving forward. Keep telling a story. Keep sharing information. Anything that you want to share with me, that you want me to talk about, or that you have uncovered that that I have not mentioned, and you want to discuss, let's do that, right? Because the more information that we find out, and the more information that we can use to empower ourselves and move forward, right? And continue to keep the legacy of our African ancestors alive, the more powerful as a people we would be, right? So again, this is Maria Jouf, the Real Africanist. I am signing off. Don't forget, when you are studying the African story, always go deeper, because there is always more to the story. Don't forget to fight the power. Don't forget to remember the ancestors, and don't forget to always let your voice be heard, right? So also, don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe to my channel, right? So I can keep on bringing you stories about African history, African studies, and current African affairs. Peace.